This video has been brought to you by Squarespace. Use the code to save 10% today. In theory, Rage 2 should be fantastic. I mean, if you told me that people who made Just Cause and the Doom reboot joined forces to make an open-world, post-apocalyptic wasteland romp, I'd be, and was, super excited. Each studio already had experience with the setting, Avalanche Studios with the better-than-expected Mad Max, and id Software with, the first Rage. They both focus on making good-ass single-player games, they've both made massive hits, and to top it off, they've got those deep Todd Howard Skyrim pockets with Bethesda publishing. The original Rage released in 2011 to mixed reception. It was unfortunately a single-player post-apocalyptic game released in the shadow and aftermath of Borderlands, and only a few months after Borderlands 2 was announced. If you followed the original Borderlands, I'm sure you remember the art style being radically changed in an attempt to stand out from the crowd. Fallout 3 kinda grabbed the market on that one. That's not to say Rage didn't stand out. I was pretty fond of it back when it was released. The team at id Software made some ridiculously good enemy AI that would attempt to adapt on the fly depending on what kind of shit you were doing, as opposed to like just running into your bullets. Plus, it had a super unique visual style when the mega textures wouldn't load. Exactly 1 year before release, Rage 2 was formally announced after a debacle from Walmart Canada with this crazy, colorful, and loud trailer. Gone was the Rage I knew, and in was goofy bullshit. It's not often that you go from the Big Brown to Andrew WK, but yeah, sure, fine, whatever. So after about 25 hours roaming the wasteland and doing just about everything it has to offer, it's a shame to say that I found Rage 2 to be a mixed bag. For everything it does right, it confuses in another. So yo, it's Austin, and I want to chat a little bit about Rage 2. The world of Rage 2 is pretty cool, actually. It's all based on the possibility of real-world asteroid 99942 Apophis striking the Earth in 2029 and wiping out most of humanity. Scary. Then people would come out of underground shelters known as arcs, and this is pretty familiar. The first game has its own story, but it doesn't really matter. A couple characters cross over into the new game, but Rage 2 follows the second rise of the Authority. The baddies from the original as well. It's kind of the same story, actually, but with less characters and narrative happening.
You're brave enough to put on his armor, you're brave enough to do his job. The fuck is that?
This time around, you play as Walker. You pick the gender of your choice and then embark on your standard FPS opening fare, complete with like people getting way too into your face and telling you, get moving. Anyways, your adoptive mom dies right away, and then you're the last ranger and you have to save the world. Rage 2 makes no innovations on the narrative front, and in some aspects feels lesser than the original, especially in the characters department. You know, I understand these elements not being important in your Dooms and Just Causes, where the action and gameplay moments carry the entire experience. But Rage 2's story comes across as sterile. A lot of the spoken dialogue is stiff, poorly written. Walker has a lot of moments where she or he is like, ah yes, I am coming to do the thing now.
So, I drove that scumbag out of town. Now we can focus on Project Dagger.
Normally I wouldn't care too much about this, but Avalanche and id's insistence on showcasing all the new attitude and color and Andrew WK led me to believe that we would have a charming cast of characters or a goofy story. But no, actually, most of the characters just speak into your radio a handful of times, or just have like 2 cutscenes where you just stand in place and let them talk, and it takes a while. They just sit and talk to you with minimum interaction, poor lip syncing, and endless exposition. I thought we were gonna be getting a ton of weird, quirky characters with memorable lines and random NPCs that'll make you laugh, but the most we got is like this. There is one character I liked a decent amount, Clegg Clayton. Now, this dude's got so much bullshit going on. Wrestling belt with a fan attached and a fucking vape. But his time in Rage 2 is so short-lived, it's criminal. I could bitch about the narrative and characters all day, but you get the point. Combat's fun, like really fun. Considering the history of the developers, I trusted if anything that Rage 2 would have some fun-ass movement and good-ass shooting. And well, it does. Avalanche and id gave the player a lot of neat abilities and guns to utilize. While I mean you can just sit there and aim your assault rifle down a hallway and let dudes run into your bullets, you'd be doing the other mechanics injustice. As you explore the map, you'll find arcs with unlockable abilities and guns that you have to fight for. You start with a very basic loadout, and it's up to the player to find the rest of the things. Like, actually, a majority of all of your shit's hidden throughout the map, so if you aren't exploring, you're not gonna have the weapons. It's not like Borderlands where you'll get shit constantly with numbers going up. It's a smaller set of weapons that you can upgrade. They're fun too. You got like a gravity dart gun that'll throw dudes around, a fire revolver that you can use the secondary function of to get some arson going. The BFG's back for those who want to straight up disintegrate dudes. Each gun also has another function under the new mechanic, Overdrive. You'll get a multiplier that will add imaginary points to your overdrive meter, which is basically Ultra Instinct, and it unlocks gun potential. It's super satisfying to have the guns power up this much, and not just in a usage sense. The audio becomes more crunchy with each blast. The spread in power is noticeable. A shotgun will knock dudes over normally, but an overdrive just dismembers people. It's a ridiculous amount of power fantasy violence, but done in such a memorable showboaty manner. Like it's the game someone's playing in the background of a TV show where you're like, hey, that's not a real game. I love it. On top of that, you have nanotrite abilities that you unlock. Think psychic blasts, gravity vortexes, and magical barriers. I found myself using these infrequently, mostly because the cooldown was extremely long, even at a high upgrade level. Though I will say, the ground pound is pretty satisfying. Rage 1 wasn't an open world in the modern GTA sense of the word. It was pretty damn small and divided into segments, wouldn't really let you do dumb bullshit all over the terrain. It was like an open world that had smaller, more traditional doomy levels inside of it. Rage 2, on the other hand, has a pretty decently sized open world that's just empty. Yeah, I know this game takes place in a wasteland, but I've never explored one that felt so unnecessary. Fucking Mad Max was denser. Okay, so check this. Rage 2 has you doing quests for 3 different people, each one representing a different aspect of your stats that you can upgrade. Combat abilities, technology, and your nanotrites. The random quests you do fall into these categories as well. You take out bandit and mutant hideouts, fight through a ton of dudes to get to an arc, which might have a nanotrite, find dead bodies and data logs filled with lore, or shoot other things. A lot of shooting. These all fall into the typical open world structure. All of these are like random combat arenas in the middle of the open world, and there's a ton of them as well. Doing each quest will get you further into your level with each of the 3 main characters, as well as upgrade currency, which is a shit show, but we'll get there. I like that each arena is made so that you can have no abilities and still conquer it, just the challenge increasing drastically if you haven't. I love that Rage 2 trusts the player to seek out their own difficulty in this sense. However, the sheer amount of these combat arenas and lack of variety has a repetitiveness that I haven't experienced in a while. These missions are all basically the same. Show up, shoot dudes, grab the pink chests, and peace the fuck out. Then you open your map, find another question mark, and do the same thing. You also get to do a race like one time, and Mutant TV's back so you can shoot more, but that's about it. There's nothing of value in between these points. Let me repeat, there's absolutely nothing of value in between these. The world of Rage 2 is filled with combat arenas, roads, a few towns, and exploration points, which are like a graveyard with a chest. You'll see the ruins of cities and buildings with no way to interact with any of it. They're just giant rectangles on your map, but even that is small in number. Some areas, like the northern wildlands being overgrown, lack any kind of character besides it's green, but when you're traveling from point A to point B, there's really nothing happening. One of the fun things with the Mad Max game was the abundance of bandits trying to attack you on the road. The car combat was frequent and exciting. However, in my 25 hours of playing Rage 2, I was randomly attacked like 2, maybe 3 times. I don't think I captured it. There's a handful of convoys you can attack that roam around in circles, and you can challenge random cars to a race, but that's it. One of the fun things about these types of open world games, especially with something taking place in a horrible, bandit-filled, every man for himself wasteland, is the threat and challenge of your life being in danger at any second. But even with giant mutants tucked away and dudes driving around from time to time, there's a lack of interactivity here. It really rips away any investment you might want to have in the world. I mean, yeah, it looks pretty as long as it's not dark as shit, but there's just nothing here. Some areas are straight up unfinished looking. Later in the game, game, you unlock a flying vehicle, and I found what looks like a racetrack with nothing to be seen around it. It's a shame because this area in particular looks beautiful. Psst, oh yeah, if things look weird or low frame rates, because I'm playing this on a base PS4. You know, the largest install base for this game. Except PC maybe, I don't know. The console port is actually really strange. There's not a brightness setting to be found in the menu, but one for motion blur, which, thank God. Anytime you go into the menu system, it stutters a shit ton. There's also a lot of weird audio glitches for some reason. If a ton of mutant enemies were on screen, their screams would cancel each other's out and clip in and out. There's an NPC who wants to talk to you, but these cars are too fucking loud, man.
So, you won't get sizzling, baby? Put your steak on the plate. Just go grab your rust bucket.
Also, when trying to fly one time, my shit just hard locked. Like the PS4 didn't even freeze or like have an error. Rage 2 just gave up. Fucking sick. Now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of aspects of Rage 2 that I like a lot. The raw shooting and combat is fun. The audio is crunchy and thick. The music's kind of a mixed bag of generic orchestra and sci-fi-y kind of stuff and punk rock that isn't Andrew WK. I couldn't find Andrew anywhere in this game. I mean, maybe I missed it, but I do like the visual style of the towns. I like the way the vehicles control, and I think the abilities you get are really fun to mess with. It's when you remove the interactive part of the game that Rage 2 feels bland. I know that sounds ridiculous to hear if you're looking at the trailer, but the execution here is lacking any kind of substance. You watch these high-octane, pink-ass trailers with the dudes dancing and explosions everywhere, and then you pop in the game to get like generic blue and red sci-fi ships, sewers, and endless desert roads. The focus on bandit hideouts means that there's not a focus on creating a memorable landscape. Larger structures or bigger cities don't exist. It feels like these things are separated into biome types as opposed to a singular area that'll stick in your mind. It feels like Bethesda was like, hey, we need to inject attitude into this. Make some places pink, we've done it. Oh, I also like the fact that the physical version of this game has a reversible cover dunking on Walmart Canada. That's good shit. It's more attitude than the entire game. There are a handful of main story missions, count them 8, with a larger, more traditional id Software level design, but none of them are visible from the map. A massive level is hidden in a waterfall or a nondescript building. These story missions are where the combat and mechanics really shine, but they're too few and far between. The only thing preventing you from finishing Rage 2 in like 4 hours is the forced level grind each one of your quest givers has. Now going back a little bit, leveling up your abilities is tedious and confusing. There's like 10 different currencies and upgrade materials to use, and none of them are explained in a concise manner. There's not a traditional experience point system, so the end game here is just find points of interest, shoot dudes, get currency, and then spend points. Repeat forever. I'm down with repetitiveness, but this is a bit much. Rage 2 is fun to play, but I'm also really disappointed and left wanting something that Rage 2 just isn't. Preferably something without cosmetic microtransactions in a single-player game. Weirdly enough, a few days before going live, the developers decided to announce a Rage 2 roadmap, which is a little weird to me. That's normally something you would do for like a games with service type of thing like Destiny. I can always appreciate any video game receiving support after its launch date, but it's strange to see that the developers of the Doom reboot, a game notorious for not having any single-player DLC, would announce a roadmap with DLC free and paid for Rage 2, another single-player game. With how quickly I went through the story content and a majority of the side stuff, it's hard for me to see people coming back to Rage when they have like a plethora of other forever games biting for their time. I mean shit, Bethesda's next FPS, Wolfenstein Youngblood, is out in 2 months' time, so it's hard for me to understand the why. That's as an entire package, by the way. Considering Bethesda's last 3 video games were this, Elder Scrolls Blades, and the oh-so-notorious Fallout 76, I can only imagine they're in rough shape at the moment. Rage 2 had close to no hype at the time of its release, like they decided to rush it out because it had no hype. I want to like Rage 2 so much more than I do, but unfortunately, the game they put out could have used a few more months in the oven to refine the empty and unnecessary open world. Considering my hype going into this with the legacy of the 2 developers attached to it, the roadmap of DLC, the uninteresting story, and the weird dissonance between the marketing and product itself, Rage 2's been a pretty big disappointment for me. But still, when you're in a combat arena and shit's going haywire, it's a pretty okay time. But hey, let's move on a second to talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace. So I've been working on this website recently. I think anyone starting up a business needs a good website to display their work and create a hub for themselves. Something that's like, hey, this is me, this is my art, this is my online presence. So I've been using Squarespace to make this work. It's nice to have an all-in-one service where I don't have to worry about plugins, and if I need to purchase a web domain, I can do it all there. That's not to mention that the visual aspects of your webpage are so easy to change that you can tweak things just to your liking without screwing it all up, which is definitely something I've done in the past. So if you're in the market for a powerful website creation tool, Squarespace is a pretty solid bet. Check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/eruption to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Please check them out, y'all, and thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for watching. Special Patreon shout out to Alfredo Ariano, Chase Scott, Chris Shelton, Christopher Olivia, Irrational, Jay Roos, Jackets, Jacoby Fitzpatrick, Legend Gary, Nitron, Ronnie Vile, Shintaro, Steven Schneier's, and Superfly1787. Thank you very much for the support. If you like the video, check out some more, and we'll have more stuff coming out soon. Also, I'm gonna stream soon. Okay, bye.